Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Double D Trailers podcast. Today, we have Lynn Petr, who's the founder and executive director of Shangri-La Therapeutic Academy of Writing, better known as STAR, in Tennessee. Lynn, thank you for joining us.
Hey, my pleasure.
Can you tell us a bit about your background in special education and therapeutic recreation and how that merged with horses?
Well, it's what created the program. I originally was going in deaf ed, studying deaf ed here at the University of Tennessee. And I had a epiphany moment at a horse camp during the summer between my freshman and sophomore years. And that's how I even got the whole idea to do the program. This is way back in the 70s. So human-animal bond was not even in existence. The computers were coming into vogue. If you remember the C prompt and all that kind of stuff, everyone was just gaga for the computers. And here I was doing horsey things. And I was at a horse camp up in Kentucky. And there was a girl that probably 12 years old. And first week, she was great. Second week, she was great. Third week, she was cranky. Fourth week, she was like a curmudgeon. It's like, what is going on? We are at camp. This is supposed to be fun. And I had her on a timeout walk, one of many. And the horses were standing under a tree. And she asked if she could go up and talk to her favorite horse. And I said, sure, yeah, go ahead. And she went up to the horse, wrapped her arms around its neck and started to cry. And I thought, oh my gosh, what did that horse do? Because crying was really not in her DNA. She was a tough little cookie. And I thought, well, that horse hasn't moved yet. So let me just hang back and see what happened. So her telling that horse how much she wished her parents loved her enough to have her be home. The summer was almost over. They hadn't spent any time with her. They even had gone on a mini vacation. How was that possible? Was she not part of the family? All this stuff just poured forth to the horse, not to me, because I had asked her many times what the deal was. But it was like, oh my gosh, this absolutely explains why this child is in turmoil.
Right.
So I went back to the director of the camp and said, this girl needs to go home. And to her credit, she called the parents. They came, got her. Again, this was in the 70s, so there was no little cell phones. I couldn't take a picture, but I have it emblazoned in my brain. She is turned around in the backseat of that car, mouthing thank you and waving at me as they pull out of the driveway of camp. And I captioned it in my head, the happiest kid to ever get sent home from camp. And so it was like, wow, wouldn't that be so cool if I could marry my love of horses with my love of children and actually do something that becomes a job? And it was like, well, yeah, okay. And that same summer, as luck would have it, or Kismet or God, whatever, I had flipped open a Good Housekeeping magazine, which is not my magazine of choice, mind you. It would have been Equus. But anyway, for some reason, I was in that magazine, and there was a little bitty blurb about NARA, the North American Writing for the Handicapped Association. And it was like, oh my gosh, somebody's doing this. So of course I called the guy, and he was just like a cheerleader. It was a new organization, had only been around for maybe 5-6 years. And so he was just excited that there was somebody else that was interested in, going down this path. And so he gave me information that I took back to the university. And I don't want to sound like I'm disparaging the University of Tennessee, because I love the institution. However, when I went back there and I switched my major to special ed, and then I pitched the idea to the professors that all were in the building of education, and to a person, they said, oh my God, what are you thinking? This is a high risk. You're here to get education, get your head out of the clouds, get your feet on the ground. Your daddy's not sending you here. I mean, it just blah, 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 blah. And it was like, but you weren't there. You didn't understand. I saw it. It was the key to opening this girl's trauma. Finally got to one person who said, well, I hear talking to rocks could be beneficial, so I don't know why this wouldn't be. That was my mentor. That was the closest I got to support system. And then I went through the 4 years, got my degree in special ed. And then by that time, I was a writing instructor at home. So I was always teaching. And so I was putting together curriculum for, well, what if I had a person who was blind? What if I had a person who was deaf? What if, So I had this whole curriculum together. And so I went and pitched it to the heads of special ed of all the surrounding counties to see what I could get. And to a person laughed out of the office, oh my God, this is so stupid. This is high risk. No one's going to let you put handicapped kids around horses, blah, 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 blah. So I was on my last one, Anderson County. And the guy listens, and, I've got my notebook out and I'm talking about the curriculum. And so he listens and he clicks on the intercom, because remember, this was 70, so they actually had intercoms.
Right.
And I don't even know who was on the other side. And he goes, I want you to come in and listen to this ridiculous idea this little girl has. And it was like, oh, college graduate, just the straw that broke the camel's back. And so I just slammed my book shut and stuck out my finger, which you really should not do. But
good for you.
I stuck my finger out and I said, look, I am offering this to you and it's going to work and you're going to be sorry you missed the boat. And then I just stomped off, with all the indignation I could. And I thought, well, Lynn, that's great because you just screwed your employment options for all these counties that you just went to. But anyway, but this guy came after me and he ran down the hall and he said, I'll give you 1 hour to prove what you can do. And then you're going, well, that's jolly good, but I don't have a program. I have a concept. I have I'm not saying this to him, but in my mind, I'm going, oh, sure, that's great. And then in my mind, I'm going, whoa, okay, I'm going to have to put something together. So they came out. He brought 6 kids from, this was back when they had, before mainstreaming, they had all special ed schools. And he brought 6 children from a local special ed school. I got my mother to be my volunteer and my mayor. And, I had the kids doing stuff and we got one child up and blah, blah, blah. And then exactly at an hour, he's going, okay, everyone back in the van, here. And I thought, he gave me a shot. He came out. He actually, listened. He saw it. Whatever. If this is as far as I'm going to go, then so be it. So he's pulling out of my parents' driveway and suddenly the brake lights come on and he slams to a stop and he sticks his head out the window and he says, be in my office Monday morning. And then he drives off and I'm going, what? What? Yeah. So Monday morning comes around and I show up at his office and I said, what is the deal? And he said, well, that nonverbal child that was with us? And I said, yes. Well, he said, horses don't like brown grass. They like green. And that's what sold him. There was a nonverbal child that said a full sentence that made sense in the 1 hour that I had him with a horse.
Wow.
And so I became the farm lady at this special ed school. They had a piece of property that they had been given that they weren't using. And so it was a wonderful opportunity for me to bring in my horses, friends' horses, stuff like that, and created a program. And all the education that I did was based on measuring grain, or we had to build an arena. So this is the size. And if I'm going to do 3 boards, how many boards do I need? If this is, the actual dimensions. And if I'm going to put 3 nails in each board, how many nails am I going to, just that kind of stuff. And all our spelling words were horse stuff, and science was ailments of the horse and diseases and disability, injuries and stuff like that of the horse. So it was all horse focused. And then the second year, we integrated the physically challenged kids into this program. And my first year kids, who were all more learning disabled, kind of some tough cookies,
Right.
They became the volunteers for in their words, the poor handicapped kids. And it's like, honey, you can't write your name, but that's okay. So they were my volunteers for the second year, and it went great. And then kaboom, it was a 2-year grant that I was unaware of, that it was a 2-year grant. And so in 2 years, they said, well, you need to be back in the classroom. And it was like, what? This is going great. You all know it. No. We only had a 2-year grant. So I went kicking and screaming into the classroom.
You had to pitch another Lynn fit. Well,
and it was like, you don't realize I'm out there 7 days a week. You all don't have weekends. I'm out there taking care of horses on Christmas, Easter, So and he was like, sorry. He said, you could do both. And it's like, no, I can't. I physically cannot do both. So anyway, so I had to dissolve that. But I learned so much because I was with these students, like 15 to 21-year-old multiply impaired individuals. And I had a girl that had 3 prosthetic limbs. And I'm sitting there, as I'm teaching, and then I'm looking at her going, would I take off that prosthesis if I was going to put her on a horse, or would I leave them on? So all these things, every time I'm looking at my students going, what would I do if this was equine based? So I'm continuing to write my curriculums and things like that. And then mainstreaming happened. And I really am not 100% proponent of that, because at this school, we had school-wide plays, musicals. They had basketball team. They had cheerleaders that couldn't spell, but they were cute and they would jump up and down. I mean, we had a newspaper. They did home ec and made strawberry pie and shared it with everybody. And it was like they weren't going to be able to do any of that in going to the regular school. So I thought, well, let me pursue something else. And so I went and checked out vet school, and it was like, Lynn Petr not smart enough to go to vet school. So okay, that door closed. And then they had a new department called Health, Physical Education, and Recreation. And I thought, well, let me just go check it out. So had my notebook, much thicker now, went in, spread it out, pitched it to the guy, and he goes, oh my gosh, what an entrepreneur, what a forward thinker. This is amazing. If you get your master's with me, I will pay your tuition and give you a stipend. Wow. And I went, my mama didn't raise a fool. I'm yours. That's and right. So my thesis project was starting a therapeutic writing program in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Wow.
So there it is.
What a journey.
Seriously.
Impressive. How did you know the term Shangri-La was the right fit?
Well, our family went on vacation, and I took a dictionary with me. So this tells you just how exciting of a person I am. And because I knew I wanted STAR, because I thought STAR would be so much fun because you could find all kinds of stuff and shirts and whatever. And I had the Therapeutic Academy of Writing, but I didn't have the S word. So with the dictionary, I'm looking and going, stir up, sunshine. And then I got to Shangri-La, and it is a mythical paradise. And I thought, that's what I'm trying to achieve, is that when they walk through our door, their disability is not an issue. It will disappear, and they will be like anyone else, and they will have the same advantage and advantage as anybody else here. And so I thought, okay, Shangri-La, that just has a good ring to it. So it makes for one heck of a long title, but I love it.
Yeah, I like it. I'm curious, are there any specific horse breeds that really excel in the field of equine assisted services?
No, it just depends on who the individual is. We serve 4-year-olds as well as we have veteran programming. It doesn't take much for an adult male to get to 200 pounds. So we've got to have some draft cross, really good size horses that can handle that. Else they can't ride. They have to do only ground classes, which there's nothing wrong with that either. There's a lot of value in that. But so we have to have a wide range. And through the years, we have had every breed imaginable, and some of the sweetest thoroughbreds and some of the calmest, most gentle Arabs and some of the ditziest quarter horses. Right. So it just does not matter the breed. It is who they are. Right. And they have to bring their A game, and they have to be sound and sane. Those are our 2 main criteria. And then they have to be willing to do the job, because there's a lot of unusual energies that flow from, especially if you think of people on the autism spectrum. Right. They interpret energies different, and they give off energies different. And some horses just kind of go, what's that? And other horses will go, hey, what's going on? So you have to partner the right horse with the right person, but also you have to desensitize them to wheelchairs, crutches, balls being thrown, bubbles being blown, an overhead lift that picks someone up out of a wheelchair and puts them on the horse. Horses don't come knowing that stuff. Right. And some horses just go, y'all are too weird for me. I don't want any part of it. And other ones just go, playtime. And they want to be involved, and they want to just get right in the mix. And it just, again, we have them for a trial period of 2 months. And that's when we orient them to the first weeks. 1 or 2 weeks is just herd orientation, where you find your order. We come in every day. This is your stall, just that kind of routine. And then we start doing the desensitization and see if they like it. And they have to choose. We cannot force them, and we don't force them. If they truly don't want to, then that's fine. But I tell you, it's been really hard to find horses now. Really? It used to be we were getting offered all the time, and now it's just not happening. And we desperately need to replace some of our older guys that have been with us for years and years and years, and they just need to retire. Granted, they're not working hard. We're not cantering, we're not jumping, and they're not running barrels or anything like that. It's walk trot work and a lot of just having to stand there and be good and tolerant. Sure. But it still takes a strong back, because a lot of these, someone comes out of a wheelchair, they're not balanced. It's not balanced weight. It's unbalanced weight that they're carrying. And, we do a lot of work with saddle fit and correct pads, and we do a lot of chiropractics and healing touch for animals, and injections and supplements, and we do all this stuff to keep them as active and productive as possible. But in the end game, if you have a 25-year-old, it's a 25-year-old,
right?
And at some point, we all need to.
We all need to retire.
Whatever.
It's my time. I just turned 50 a few weeks ago. I'm definitely ready, but I can't figure out how to stop the bills from coming in. So I still have to work a little bit.
Yeah. That's flirting with retirement. And I'm reading all these books, and it says, figure out what you've always wanted to do, and this is your chance to do it. And you're going, doing it. There's nothing else that I would rather do. So, yeah, that's another whole story.
I was looking at your website, and I saw different programs that were tailored to different needs. You've touched on that a little bit. Anything you care to elaborate?
Sure. We started out with therapeutic riding. That was the premise, and that is still our largest program, and that is partnering children and adults with disabilities with the horse, learning riding skills. And they also groom and tack. They groom and tack their horse, and then they ride. It's not just coming in with the horse ready to go. But then we had a strong push for the veteran population. And within our industry, equine assisted services, the veteran population curriculums were starting to develop. And so we started working with the veterans. And that's been, just truly amazing, the stories that come out of that. We were taking our miniatures initially we were going to take them into the schools, but the schools were like, what happens if a kid's allergic? And it's like, well, maybe they don't touch them. I don't know. There was just too many roadblocks with the schools. So, but the assisted living and memory care units were just like, oh, please, please. And so we're taking them into facilities. And the first one that I did, it was before we had diapers for them. And I went in and put out a rug, and then I went out and got a Minnie and brought her in. And this elderly woman jumps up and she goes, no, horses don't belong in the house. It was like, oh my gosh, this is just terrible start. I'm so sorry. And I pulled a staff member. I said, do you need me to leave? I said, I'm so sorry. And she said, you stay right there. We haven't heard her speak since she's been here.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, of course, their staff rushed over to her and said, well, Ethel, did you have horses when you were little? And she goes, I sure did, but they did not come in the house. I thought, well, way to go. We uncorked Ethel, and everything was just kind of like, rah, rah, rah. And every time we go to that facility now, the staff will come back and they go, so there was this lady there who was saying, I don't know who that woman was that thought it was a good idea to bring horses in the house. And I was like, well, there's my legacy there. But
man, you seem like just a good soul that is very passionate about what you do, for sure. I mean, it shows just sitting here talking to you. It's such a pleasure. I'm sure a lot of our listeners would love to help. So are there any volunteer opportunities STAR has, or
absolutely.
I know you mentioned, hey, we need horses. Are there other ways that folks can contribute?
Horses are big time. Volunteering, our program runs with certified staff, but then a ton of volunteers. And volunteerism is very transient, just because people grow up or they get married or they move away, they have babies, whatever. And so it's always a need. And we have our volunteer trainings quarterly that precede each session. We just had our one for summer session, so there'll be another one coming up in the end of August for fall session. And you don't have to have horse experience. We need people that work with the students, and then the horses is different. You have to go through another clinic. You have to test and everything to make sure the horses are treated all the same with a lot of continuity. Else they get a little, they just get agitated when too many people are handling them too many different ways. So we have to really unify that front. But we have ones that take the minis in. So you're not trotting next to a horse out in the hot sunshine. You're taking the minis into the assisted living places. And we have volunteers that, of course, are helping with facility. It's 63 acres. We've got the hay down. They're putting up hay tomorrow. So there's, that type of stuff. There's a lot of weed eating and mowing to go on. But our board is all volunteer. We have event volunteers. So there's just a ton of ways that people can help. And then, of course, financially, we're, as a nonprofit, not all of our students pay. The veterans do not pay anything. We kind of feel like if they've left part of themselves behind in service to our country and us, then the least we can do is offer this service to them. And some of the people just financially can't manage it. And so we're fundraising all the time to make it work. It's an ongoing thing, but it does work, and it's a beautiful place to be.
Final thought, any most memorable experience with horses and therapy program, anything you want to share?
I'll tell you one story of our Stable Friends class, which was created post-COVID because so many of typically developing kids were falling off the rails because of COVID, whether it be obsessive compulsive behavior, stress, just lack of groundedness, just, everything, isolation, all that. Therapists were being overrun and they didn't have enough room. And a therapist friend called and said, Lynn, do you have anything that you can do for these kids? And it's like, well, yeah, we have a curriculum for changing strides. We just need to adjust the narrative to who we're working with. So we started one class and we thought it was going to be a one-time thing. Well, we're on our 8th class now. They just keep coming. But the story I want to tell is it was probably about the 4th week in what I just described was the girl that was there, obsessive hand washing and just all this stuff. The parents sent us a note. They picked her up, and when they got home, they sent us an email back, and they said, so we picked up Susie Q from Star today. Her jacket was covered in horsehair. Her hands were filthy. Her smile was huge, and she talked the entire way home.
Wow.
Thank you for giving us back our daughter.
Yeah.
And you're just going, the barn is just a magical place where people can become who they really need to be, and they can feel comfortable and blossom. And that story right there is just like, God, that's so telling, and it's not just throwing them with a horse. Obviously there's curriculum. We're educated. We know what we're doing, but it's still, the horse works in such magical ways.
Yeah. Provides a lot of healing there, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
To our listeners, to stay connected with STAR, visit their website at rideatstar.org. Lynn, it truly has been my pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really enjoyed this episode.
Thank you.